Okay, so doing another video with the herd. So there's Jack and Indra and Miss Aponi. So I wanted to share a little bit about sort of the concept and theory behind horse medicine, where that came from, and give a little bit of an introduction to, kind of feeling that and where that comes from with the horses. So, and see how Indra's licking and chewing there. So when horses do that lick and chew, it's their way of communicating affirmation. So what I'm speaking of is resonant, or, when I come out here, sometimes I don't always know what I'm going to say, but I'm just kind of following a thread of intuition. Horses obviously can't communicate with us verbally, so where that manifests is in their body language. The idea of medicine and where that comes from, so I really kind of align and appreciate the philosophy rooted in Native American tradition that speaks about that there's medicine in everything, life, animals, trees. I think I first got introduced to that concept when, through animal messengers. So they believe every animal has a message or a medicine. And then when I started to do the horse work, what I naturally started to realize or appreciate, here comes Indra. He can be a part of what I'm sharing over here. Hello, Mr. Sir. This is who we're talking about today, apparently. This is a perfect example of, when I come out here, who do I need to hang out with and what's the message behind that? He's just giving me his butt a little bit to scratch, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I started to get curious, and I think one of the ways that I want to honor and appreciate my horses as teachers and partners in this work is to put emphasis on who's coming out to be with you and what's significant about that. Most of the work that I do with my horses is at liberty, in terms of just coming out to the herd and seeing, who steps forward. And again, I think the symbolism of that is horses read energy a lot more pure than we do as humans. In terms of allowing the horses to choose who they want to come to and why. And again, the significance of which horse is coming to deliver that message and what's significant about that, which I think really emphasize the power of the teaching of that particular horse, which gives us an idea. So for me, it gives me a clue for myself and others of what is going on in their life, where's the imbalance, what is the thing that needs to be worked on regarding who shows up and how they're interacting with the person. So medicine is found both in who's delivering that message in terms of who that horse is, there's the lick and chew, and then how they're interacting with us, in terms of the behavior. So as I'm sort of standing here with Indra, I'll start to sort of unpack that. So the other sort of thing that I really try to come out here with is an unbiased approach, meaning every time I come out here, I'm not going to make an assumption that a horse's appearance with me means something. I think that we all have medicine, including ourselves. We have range and depth to our medicine. So Indra, I have a particular appreciation of what his medicine is, in terms of what our journey's been together, what his role is in the herd. So in terms of identifying what the medicine is, it comes from a couple places. How do I feel in relationship to this horse? What's going on in my life when this horse comes? What's been their journey? And then what's their role in the herd, right? So it's influenced by a couple places, both sort of the intuition and just the practical sense of that. So if we see here how he's being persistent with his hind end, so I can talk a little bit. So sometimes when I come out here, the medicine is the particular horse, and sometimes it is how they're engaging with me. I'm going to go deeper into my interpretation of Indra and his story, but I also want to talk about this behavior here. Contrary to what we've been taught about the hind end of the horse as being dangerous, I don't think that's completely accurate. And again, I think when we're coming out here discerning how is the horse showing up for me today, is helping us to discern what's the behavior mean right now. This presentation of his hind end in this moment is not aggressive. A couple things about the hind end of the horse. This is their blind spot. It is actually a vulnerable position for them. In the wild, if they're going to be attacked, a predator is going to come to the hind end. A couple of meanings or the medicine behind where I discern the hind end. And again, it depends on what's going on in my life and where this becomes appropriate. First of all, it's a sign of I trust you. He's asking for me to kind of scratch his hind end. So there is an affection and a bonding aspect to this. Something that I get for Indra, and this was a message actually, I have a private retreat this week, and we were talking about the partnership with horses. Indra's actually my first horse, so we've been together almost, I think, 11 years. And I was kind of talking about, do you see how he's licking and chewing? So him doing that is affirming that what I'm about to say in terms of his particular story is relevant to what I'm talking about. I was sharing with a client that's here this week and her share about her horse and where he is. And I was sharing that this relationship with my horse partners, it's mutually beneficial. And so he's kind of leaning into me right now. So there's an invitation of, I'm leaning into you and you lean into me. And so I really believe in this partnership. There's a dual, mutual exchange that's happening here. And where I was sharing that this week with my client was, and Indra's my first rescue. Yes, I know. So just a thing about my herd, most of my horses, I call them former rescues, but they're coming here with some semblance of trauma. Indra was, I got him as a 2.5-year-old. He was part feral, and he had trauma. And so I used to joke as part of our journey, Indra pretty much, if I was a horse and he was a human, we would be each other. So part of his healing for him to move past his trauma was actually me doing my work. And so what I was receiving in terms of how he's interacting with me and sort of that lean in, and you see that affirmation there with his lick and chew, is our journeys benefit each other. So as I look to do my work, and if I have a horse that might have a similar wounding, when I work on myself, it benefits the horse. I also have seen, horses that have come here with their trauma. As they step into having a different partnership and relationship with people, it starts to heal them. So as you see, I'm sort of sharing this. I didn't know I was going to come out here and share the story. Yes, Aponi. That's her setting a boundary with Indra. This, for whatever reason, was important for me to share. If I were to make up a different story or to go into a little bit deeper, okay, so we might be done with Indra now. Okay, so Pony's just moved Indra out of the space, so that's horse behavior now, so apparently that's done. I actually, when I came out here, I was thinking I was going to spend time with her, and then Indra kind of grabbed my attention. So there's a lick and chew. Okay, so I'm just going to unpack this a little bit as I'm sitting out there. So I think that what I was getting from Indra was the appreciation that the journey for us to address our work, and to heal ourselves has an impact on those around us. My horses are my partners in life and in this path. My honoring of that exchange is I'm doing my work and it helps support them in the things that they need to journey through as well. So I do think there's a connection there. So again, when I come out here, some of the concept of idea of medicine is shared both in who's delivering that message and also how they're interacting with us. And so now I'm going to put my attention, I'm not going to give more about Indra because I think that was complete. So again, when I come out here, I'm not just blanket statementing a message about the horse and their medicine and their story, but what's relevant. So now we'll focus on Aponi's energy. And so there's a delivery of her in terms of who she is and how she's delivering the medicine, and also what is she doing. So if you see her ears pinned like that, and when she moved forward, Indra has to move, that's her communication of setting a boundary. So as you can see, okay, so there's the lick and chew. So if I was sitting here and making up again, what does this mean for me? And what's the communication, if this is a client or for myself? There's a thing here about claiming our space. She is the lead mare. This is the lead mare. What I experience as her medicine, and just if you can just feel in the energy of her video, she's large. She's a big girl. Her presence and her energy is massive. And so one of the things that I've learned from her, and especially in relationship of around leadership, because she is the lead mare, so again, the medicine comes from also what her role is in the herd, is it's okay to occupy the fullness of ourselves and really claim our space. So she is a dominant horse. She's very unapologetic in terms of stepping into the space. I associate a piece of her medicine with power. It's really about occupying the fullness of your power. As a woman, and I don't think necessarily this, I think men can relate to this too, I do think there's something really powerful about the idea of us looking at what stops us from really occupying our full presence. I know for myself, you know, as I look ahead again to the new year, and Aponi kind of showed up as one of my anchors in the other video, my quest, I think, always is how do I occupy more of myself and get more comfortable in terms of owning my place in my work and also in the world, within myself and also what I'm doing. So do you see how she's licking and chewing there? So that's a confirmation that what I just spoke and sort of how I received that message, she's just affirming that that's true. Her ears are going back again because there's another horse standing with me. So she's also, see how clear she is about her communication? I always sort of say, like, nobody messes with this horse. The other layer I wanted to talk about with Aponi, and my attention was a little bit, I wanted to talk about her medicine, and then you just kind of roll with it. I had a woman look at another video I did with her and comment of how she felt her woundedness. And she does have a wound. It's occupied in her feet, but she was rescued from the wildfires in 2017 in rough shape in terms of pretty severe neglect with her health care and foot care. Feet care with horses is incredibly essential to their survival and to well-being. If there's something going on with their feet, that's kind of, it's a dead horse. So she came, she had pretty significant and severe laminitis. They were not sure that she would survive from that. She has. 2 years later, she's still healing from that. Aponi's also the horse that gave me a teaching around the concept of the wounded woman archetype and the empowered woman archetype, which I did another video about that, so I'm not going to go too much into that here. But what I often feel from her is, and what I've gotten from her in terms of my own journey around the places that I've been wounded, wounding is part of who we are, it's part of our wisdom, but it's not an identifier. And I think that there's a way of, our wounding can lead to us owning our power, but her place of present doesn't come from her past. It comes from who she is. Her power is not diminished by her wounding. And I think that what she's really taught me in my own journey is the way that I self-identify, you know, through the past or what's happened to me. I don't have to associate myself through the things that I've been through that have been wounding or traumatic for me. It's part of my experience, but it's not who I am. And so when I'm with her, I think to me she's given me that way of, I don't know what the word is I think it's integrating my journey without it compromising how I hold myself in the world. But our wounding never takes away our place of power. And so she's very clear about her space. That's her clearly communicating to Chiron over there that he's coming too close. I think also in terms of, again, I'm associating what she's showing too, of like, what's the message behind this? sometimes we feel bad about claiming our space, right? See, she has no qualms about it. She's not worried about hurting Chiron's feelings. That she's very clear of like, this is the space that I want to hold around myself. I think the beauty of working with horses is they don't have baggage around that. So I think in terms of claiming our space, occupying our power, sometimes we dilute that or we make ourselves small because we're so afraid of the impact or how it will hurt others. I think that's coming from a wounded place. A pony doesn't operate that way. I think to me, she always shows that full permission to be in the fullness of who you are. It's not her job or her role to take that baggage on. The beauty of being with horses is they don't have that baggage, right? They're not taking offense to that. But she has no problem occupying and communicating her space. She came into our herd in the spring of 2019, and it took her all about, I would say, a couple hours to establish that she was taking over as the lead mare. And she just owned it because it's just who she is. So I think that there's a place too about ownership and claiming. And it was a powerful thing to witness. Tarina, who was our lead mare, I still call her the elder lead mare, and the queen of the unicorns, had no problem letting a pony kind of take over that, because a pony, and again, physically, she's not 100%. It does not diminish her capacity to hold leadership in this herd. Even though she's a bit slower and maybe she's not completely sound because of what's happening or what has gone on in her history with her feet, it doesn't diminish her capacity to hold a leadership role. So I think that there's something in that. The other thing I offer too when I'm doing this stuff with people is, what are you sensing or getting from her as well that's a message to you? So this is just a little bit of an exploration of how the concept of horse medicine works, and a little bit of receiving from horse medicine from Indra and Aponi. So wherever that lands for you, and one of the things that I always sort of say when I'm coming out here with people, there's that lick and chew, is this is my interpretation. I believe that all of the lenses that we see, it's not about being accurate. This is my interpretation or how I observe what this exchange is. You could be watching this and getting something different. If it resonates in you, then it's also true. So I don't think there's a universal or absolute truth with this work. I share my interpretation because sometimes people find it helpful. There's that lick and chew of affirmation. And there's a lot of room for us to also find our interpretation with this exchange as well. So the horses have really taught me that it's not accuracy we're measuring. And you can see Indra licking and chewing in the back there. I'm not measuring accuracy. I'm paying attention to the resonance of what's landing true for me. And we can have different lenses and perspectives and truths that are happening at the same time. My horses have encouraged me to speak that, because there might be something someone will pull from that. And the invitation I always offer to people is, this is my interpretation. You might also receive something different. So there we go. A little bit of horse medicine. Let me know what resonates and lands for you. You might be receiving something different, and there might be something in the space that's also calling your eye that I didn't speak to as well. So there's so many layers that kind of are constantly going on. So there you go.